There is a person in your life who is drowning in the depths of regret, and this regret weighs upon their heart with such heaviness that it colors every moment of their existence. Each day that passes brings with it a fresh wave of remorse, a persistent ache that refuses to fade into the background of their consciousness. They find themselves trapped in an endless cycle of remembering, constantly replaying those precious moments when you were completely, wholeheartedly, and perhaps even a little desperately in love with them. They remember a time when your feelings burned so brightly, so intensely, that they could have moved mountains and parted seas. Your love was a force of nature, pure and unstoppable. During that sacred time, you offered them the truest, most authentic version of yourself. You came to them with your heart wide open, vulnerable in ways that required tremendous courage. You were loyal beyond measure, giving endlessly without counting the cost or keeping score. You poured yourself into the connection with a generosity of spirit that is rare and beautiful to witness. But when you stood before them with your heart in your hands, they were unable to meet you in that sacred space. They lacked either the willingness or perhaps the bravery required to open their own heart in return and show you the full depth of their emotions. Now, blessed and cursed with the clarity that hindsight brings, they understand with painful precision just how profoundly they failed you in that crucial moment. The emptiness that fills them is not a dull, distant thing but something sharp and immediate, cutting into them with relentless persistence. They miss absolutely everything about you, not merely the obvious things that anyone might miss, like the radiance of your smile or the music of your laughter echoing through a room. No, they miss the small, quiet, intimate details that made you uniquely you. They long for the way your voice would soften and become tender when you spoke directly to them, as if your words were meant for their ears alone. They ache for the way your eyes would illuminate with pure joy when excitement took hold of you, transforming your entire countenance. They yearn for the way you instinctively cared for them, anticipating their needs before they even had to voice them, loving them in ways both grand and subtle. Every single memory they hold of you has become like a precious photograph, a frozen moment in time that they desperately wish they could somehow step back into and inhabit once more. But the cruel truth they must face is that those moments have passed beyond their reach, and this knowledge gnaws at them constantly. It consumes them from the inside because they recognize that in those beautiful moments, they possess something genuinely pure and extraordinarily rare. They held in their hands a treasure that most people search for their entire lives and never find, and they carelessly allowed it to slip through their fingers like sand. The anger they direct at themselves is real and overwhelming. They are truly furious with the person they were back then, disgusted by their failure to take the connection seriously when it was right there in front of them, asking only to be acknowledged and cherished. In those days, they convinced themselves they had all the time in the world. They believed your love was something they could always depend on, a constant they could take for granted regardless of how carelessly they treated you or how little effort they invested in nurturing what you had built together. But now, as they look back with eyes finally open to the truth, they see with devastating clarity just how thoughtless and unappreciative they truly were. They understand now, in ways that cut to the bone, exactly how deeply they wounded you. These were not superficial hurts or passing disappointments but profound emotional injuries that left lasting scars on your soul. They can visualize you now in those painful moments, giving your absolute all and receiving far too little in return, and the image shatters them completely. These days, they find themselves engaging in an exercise that is both necessary and torturous. They stand in your place, deliberately putting themselves in your shoes and attempting to imagine what it must have felt like to be you during that time. They try to comprehend how lonely and isolating it must have been to love someone with such overwhelming intensity and not have that love reflected back to you in the same measure. To pour yourself out completely and receive only fragments in return. To show up fully while the other person remained half present at best. Through this painful process of empathetic imagination, they are coming to realize something that cuts them to their very core. They understand now that they may never be capable of loving anyone else the way you loved them. Your love was fierce and selfless, unwavering even when it would have been easier to walk away. And now they recognize how truly rare and precious that kind of love is. It is not something that comes along often, if ever again. They can identify their mistakes now with perfect clarity, cataloging them one by one like a list of crimes against something holy. And standing above all the others, the biggest mistake they made was not giving you enough of their time. They took your presence for granted in the most fundamental way, operating under the foolish assumption that you would always be there waiting for them tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. They failed to understand the basic truth that love is a living thing that requires tending. It needs active effort and consistent attention to flourish and grow. It cannot survive on neglect and occasional gestures. Their failure to reciprocate your love was not simply an error in judgment. It was the greatest, most catastrophic mistake of their entire life. It was a choice they would give anything to reverse, but they are confronted daily with the immutable fact that they cannot turn back time or undo what has been done. With that devastating realization comes another truth that feels equally heavy. You were not merely someone they cared about or felt affection for. You were a genuine blessing, a once-in-a-lifetime gift that the universe placed directly in their path. And instead of recognizing you for the miracle you were and cherishing you accordingly, they allowed their own fears, distractions, and deep-seated insecurities to build walls between you. Here is the deeper truth that they are only now beginning to comprehend. They had never before experienced truly unconditional love. Every form of love they had known up until you came into their life had strings attached to it, hidden expectations, secret motives, or clearly defined limits. Love had always been transactional, something given with the expectation of receiving specific things in return. So when you appeared and loved them without conditions, without keeping score, without demanding they be anything other than who they were, they simply did not know how to process or accept it. They doubted the authenticity of what you offered because it seemed too good to be real. They thought it was only a matter of time before you too would inevitably pull away or start attaching conditions and expectations to your affection. They waited for the other shoe to drop, for you to reveal that your love came with a price tag after all. But you proved them wrong again and again and again, through your words, through your consistent actions, through the unwavering way you stood beside them even when circumstances became difficult and staying would have been easier to leave. You demonstrated to them that your love was fundamentally different from anything they had experienced before. You showed them that it was not based on what they could provide for you or how well they performed or what they could offer in exchange. Your love was rooted simply in who they were as a person, flaws and all. That realization simultaneously amazes them and breaks their heart into pieces now, because they can see with painful clarity that they did not value this precious gift appropriately when they possessed it. Now, the simple act of thinking about you has become both a source of comfort and a wellspring of pain. They find themselves constantly revisiting treasured memories from your time together. Late-night conversations that stretched into the early morning hours, when the world felt small and intimate. Shared laughter that came from a place of genuine connection and understanding. The way you would look at them as if they were the most important, most valuable person in the entire world. And each time they allow themselves to sink into these memories, their eyes grow wet with tears because they are forced to confront the fact that they will never get those perfect moments back. The longing they carry for you runs deep, creating an ache that has taken up permanent residence in their chest. It is relentless and all-consuming. This is not the kind of longing that gradually fades with the passage of time or that can be diminished through distraction or denial. No matter how hard they try to busy themselves with other things, no matter how much they attempt to move forward, the yearning remains constant and powerful. From where they stand now, there emanates an energy of desperate yearning, a need that borders on desperation. They want so badly to tell you everything they have realized, to open the floodgates and pour out all the words they kept locked away and unspoken before. They want to confess that they were completely wrong in how they handled things, that they were blind to the extraordinary gift they had standing right in front of them. But more than simply making these verbal admissions, they desperately want to feel your presence in their life again, to know once more what it feels like to be truly loved by you, even if only for a fleeting moment. In their quiet, solitary moments when no one else is around to see, they allow themselves to imagine alternate realities and different outcomes. They picture what might have been if they had made different choices, if they had been brave enough to open their heart fully, if they had prioritized giving you their time and attention, if they had met the intensity and devotion of your love with equal measure. These thoughts haunt them like ghosts because deep in their soul they understand that the love you offered them was genuinely once in a lifetime. It was the kind of love that people write songs and poetry about, the kind that changes you fundamentally. And they know that once such a love is gone, it rarely, if ever, returns. So they carry this heavy burden with them continuously, day after day, week after week. It serves as a constant reminder that love, when it is real and true, must be cherished and honored in the present moment, not after it has slipped away and become nothing more than memory. And though they may never be granted the opportunity to make things right, though they may never get a second chance to love you the way you deserve to be loved from the beginning, they will always know in the deepest, most honest part of their heart that you were the one who loved them with purity, selflessness, and without conditions. And losing you, letting you walk away, stands as the greatest mistake they will ever make in their lifetime. When you finally made the decision to walk away from them, it pierced their heart in a way they were utterly unprepared to handle. This was not a simple goodbye or a temporary period of distance that would eventually resolve itself. This was a moment that shook the very foundation of their being, rattling them to their core. They could feel the sting radiating through their chest, sharp and immediate. And if they are being completely honest with themselves, your departure shattered their pride into 1,000 pieces. Their ego, which they had unknowingly constructed like a fragile tower made of glass, came crashing down in a single devastating instant. Yet even in the midst of that overwhelming pain and the shock of having their pride wounded so deeply, there emerged something else, something quieter but infinitely more powerful and meaningful. Respect. Deep down, beneath all the layers of hurt and the sting to their wounded pride, they found themselves respecting you immensely for the courageous decision you made. They recognized that it required an incredible amount of inner strength and conviction to walk away from someone you genuinely care about when you believe in your heart that they are in the wrong. Most people, when faced with such a situation, choose the path of silence or compromise simply to maintain peace and avoid confrontation. But you refused to take that easier road. You stood firm in your truth and your values, even though making that choice must have caused you tremendous pain as well. And in demonstrating that kind of strength and integrity, you showed them something they both admire deeply and envy. That single act of courage has inspired them in ways they struggle to fully articulate or explain. Your decision to walk away has pushed them, perhaps forced them, to confront themselves honestly for the first time. To look unflinchingly at their flaws and shortcomings. To realize that if they want any chance of your connection surviving and perhaps even flourishing one day, they must approach it with genuine dignity and unwavering integrity rather than entitlement or lazy complacency. The transformation you have undergone since making that difficult choice is impossible for them to miss or ignore. You have evolved and grown into a version of yourself that radiates self-respect and inner strength from every fiber of your being. And that remarkable transformation sends them a message that rings crystal clear. You will not accept them back into your life until they have taken complete, unequivocal responsibility for their mistakes and the harm they caused. A simple apology, while necessary, will not be sufficient. They must make real, concrete, lasting amends. They must step up and take the lead in guiding your connection toward a healthier, more genuinely loving direction. One where mutual respect, deep trust, and radical honesty are treated as non-negotiable foundations rather than optional extras. Now, as they look at their life and their past with clearer eyes, they realize something that perhaps should have been obvious all along but that they were too blind to see. The people they once believed were their closest allies, the ones they trusted and thought truly loved them for who they were never actually on their side. These people were present in their life only for what they could extract and gain from the relationship. Their kindness and friendship were nothing more than a thin, deceptive veil covering fundamentally selfish intentions. This is a painful and disillusioning truth to face head-on. But in a strange and unexpected way, they have found themselves grateful for this harsh revelation. Because losing those false, shallow connections has finally allowed them to see and appreciate the rare, genuine, authentic bond they once shared with you. What causes them the most profound pain now is the knowledge that they failed so completely to value the one person who gave them unwavering loyalty and pure love without ever asking for anything in return. You never demanded more than they were capable of giving. You did not come with a long list of requirements or impossible expectations. You wanted only sincerity, honesty, and the same level of devotion and commitment that you so freely and generously offered them. And yet, despite the simplicity and reasonableness of what you needed, they allowed doubt and misplaced trust in others to cloud their judgment and distort their priorities. They see now, with the kind of clarity that comes only through loss and regret, that they hurt the person who stood by them with the purest possible intentions. That guilt sits heavy on their chest every single day, a constant weight that reminds them of what they must do, how they must change, to become worthy of you again. But even through all of this darkness, through the mistakes and the distance and the painful lessons being learned, there remains one truth that stands untouched and unchangeable. You captivated their heart from the very first day they met you. There was something about you that transcended simple physical attraction or shared interests and hobbies. The connection ran deeper, touching something almost unexplainable and mystical. You seemed to possess an almost supernatural ability to understand parts of them that they had kept carefully hidden from the rest of the world. The restless, chaotic, turbulent parts of their inner landscape that no one else had ever been able to calm or soothe. You are the first person in their entire life who has been able to quiet their inner demons and bring them a sense of peace they had never known was possible. This is not merely about you making them feel good in temporary, fleeting moments. This is about you making them feel like they finally belong somewhere, like they have found a home. Like they can finally release the breath they have been holding for years without fear of judgment, rejection, or abandonment. In your presence, they feel safe enough to show up as their flawed, imperfect, messy self, and yet simultaneously inspired and motivated to want to become better, to grow, to evolve. That combination is an extraordinary gift, one that they will never again take for granted or fail to appreciate. They think back frequently to the small, quiet moments you shared together. The intimate conversations that revealed your souls to one another. The knowing glances that communicated volumes without a single word being spoken. The times when words became unnecessary because your connection ran deeper than language. And they realize now how profoundly meaningful those moments were, even if they failed to acknowledge or express it at the time. Those precious memories play in their mind like a film on repeat, one they cannot stop watching. These recollections serve as both a comfort in their loneliness and a stark reminder of what they stand to lose forever if they do not make fundamental changes in who they are and how they show up in relationship. They need you to know that this is not simply about missing your presence or feeling lonely without you. This goes far deeper than that. This is about recognizing and honoring your inherent worth as a human being. This is about acknowledging and owning their own shortcomings and failures. This is about understanding at the most fundamental level that love is not merely a feeling that washes over you or a fleeting emotion. Love is an active choice made repeatedly. It is a sacred responsibility. It is a daily commitment to nurture and protect the precious bond you share with another soul. They are ready now to take on that responsibility fully and completely. Not out of fear of losing you, though that fear is certainly present and real, but out of the deep respect they have for who you are and the profound love they carry for you in their heart. If they could somehow turn back time and rewrite history, they would do absolutely everything differently. They would listen more carefully and attentively to what you were saying, both with your words and your silences. They would speak with greater kindness and consideration. They would protect your relationship fiercely from the noise, interference, and toxic influence of others.